If you think vaping is any different than smoking, think again. 1 in 5 high school students are vaping, and around the world, there's over 1.3 billion people who use tobacco products. I hate to rain on your parade, but tobacco kills 50% of its users, and every year, smoking kills more than 8 million people. That's more than war, guns, car accidents, and alcohol combined. In this video, I'm going to share with you the truth about smoking and what happens to your body when you smoke and how it impacts your swimming performance. If you're new here, I'm Coach Ferris and I help you improve your performance and health through swimming. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Save this video, send it to a friend. Smoking is smoking. It doesn't matter if you're doing cigarettes, e-cigarettes, which is known as vaping. They're one and the same. If you're doing a vape, if you're vaping, you're smoking. Cigars, pipes, hookah, bong, anything else like that, it's all pretty much the same thing. And I have some insane statistics to share with you guys, so before you grill me in the comments, down below in the description, all of the different articles and studies are going to be linked that I'm about to reference. Cigars are more likely to cause oral cancer and cigarettes are more likely to cause lung cancer. The average cigar contains around 100 milligrams of nicotine, so that means one small cigar is approximately 1 to 3 cigarettes. And if you do hookah, 60 minutes of hookah is equal to smoking 40 to 400 cigarettes. And smoking marijuana is also associated with emphysema. So depending on what you're doing, you really can't escape the negative effects of smoking. Whether you're doing tobacco, cannabis, or opium, it is detrimental to your body. And according to the World Health Organization, as I already mentioned, tobacco kills 50% of the users. So this is so powerful because whether or not you smoke yourself, you probably know someone who does. So let me know down below in the comments how smoking has impacted you, either personally or through secondhand smoke. I already mentioned that it kills more than 8 million people every single year. And of those, 7 million are directly caused by smoking, and 1.2 million are the result of secondhand smoke, meaning just by being in the physical presence of someone who's smoking any of the above things that I mentioned, you're at risk, a greater risk of dying from that specific thing. I already mentioned 1.3 billion people are using tobacco products. Now let's go ahead and break it out as to how a cigarette actually works. Like, how does vaping work? What is a cigarette in the first place? I don't smoke, maybe you don't smoke, and maybe you're curious. And if you do smoke, it's gonna hit home for you. So cigarettes contain a few key things. There's tar, which is basically a mix of 7,000 different chemicals, and over 70 of them are carcinogens, which means they cause cancer. So there are chemicals that are in the cigarette that literally cause cancer. Now you're not going to smoke and then have cancer tomorrow, but you are increasing the likelihood of which that develops at an accelerated rate. And on average, people who smoke live 10 years less than people who don't smoke. And there's other things in there like nicotine. So I have the beautiful chemical formula of nicotine. It's C10H14N2. In addition to that, there's carbon monoxide. And these things sound bad, right? Carbon monoxide, there's literally carbon monoxide sensors in a house or a building to make sure that the levels aren't too high so you don't die. So that's a result of actually smoking the cigarette. There's other chemicals in there that are much more common, to the ear at least, like benzene, arsenic, and formaldehyde. So you might have heard these things because they're actually poison. So arsenic is something that you might actually kill animals with. Benzene, formaldehyde, these things are in gasoline, they're in pesticides and other things that are really damaging, and they really kill people. So why would you do this? Well, here's what happens to your body when you smoke. Within seconds, the nicotine causes the release of dopamine. And if you remember from my last video, we talked about dopamine being this feel-good chemical reaction in your brain. So your brain naturally is releasing dopamine, and you can actually mimic this impact when you exercise. So when you swim, you release endorphins, and when you smoke a cigarette, the nicotine is actually causing the release of dopamine, and you feel good. And what happens is over time, because it feels good, your brain actually craves this, and you become addicted to it, and it becomes really difficult to stop. So of people who smoke, 7 in 10 actually wish that they could stop. But it's so difficult to stop because it's addictive, and that's happening on a neural level inside of your brain. And it's also been found in studies that vaping also has nicotine. So if you might be reading, this doesn't have any nicotine, there's a lot of misinformation out there on the internet. So make sure you do your research and really understand that anything that I mentioned has detrimental impacts to your health, but not only to your health, but also your swimming performance, because that's what we're here all about. How do we get faster in swimming? AeroFit is the official breathing partner for MySwimPro, and it's a tool that I've personally used over the years to improve my accessible lung capacity and even swim faster. Now, it's really easy to use, and it starts with a 3-step test to get your baseline, and then the app will set you up with a personalized training program. Then the workouts take less than 10 minutes a day, and all you have to do is follow the app and adjust the resistance levels on the breathing trainer. You'll see the difference in just a few weeks because the exercises strengthen your diaphragm and the muscles between your ribs so that you can inhale more air with every breath that you take. And that makes breathing more controlled, and it's also gonna help you with your sleep and your recovery. So if you're ready to take your breathing to the next level, make sure you check out the link in the description to get 15% off your AeroFit order. Here's what happens from a swimming perspective. So the chemicals in the tobacco, all these chemicals we talked about, these 7,000 different chemicals and 70 different carcinogens, they bind to the red blood cells. So if you remember, red blood cells are carrying oxygenated blood to your muscles. So what happens is when the chemicals are binding to these red blood cells, it is preventing the delivery of oxygen to your muscles through your body. And as a result, that has a few negative consequences. You will fatigue faster because you're not getting oxygenated blood. So imagine you're doing a set, you're doing a workout, and you're falling apart anyway. You start to fatigue. Now when you have this in your body, because it's basically inhibiting the oxygen delivery to your muscles when they need it most, you just become less efficient and you fatigue much faster. You're also gonna breathe much heavier, and you're gonna have increased soreness because you're not able to recover as quickly. Another way that smoking negatively impacts your swimming is that you have an increased resting heart rate. This really is because your body is just less efficient at doing everything. So because of that, your body, your heart and lungs actually have to work harder. So because your heart is less efficient at delivering and pumping this oxygen, your body is less efficient at using the oxygen, your heart has to beat more times in a given period of time. So let's say your resting heart rate is 60 beats per minute. And now if you have this negative thing in your body, it's actually just making you less efficient. And now maybe your resting heart rate's gonna go from 60 to 65 to 70. And your heart is literally just working harder because it has to in order to deliver that oxygen. And then in addition to that, it's limiting your max strength potential. So if you're lifting weights or you're just trying to get stronger or even maintain a certain kind of physique, the smoking is just basically preventing you from being at your max. So let's say your theoretical max is, benching 100 kilograms or squatting 150 kilograms. Yeah, maybe take 10-20% off of that, and that's what you're gonna be able to do if you're smoking. Now, if you're smoking all the time, you've probably never even seen what your max potential is, and if you start smoking, it's gonna be very difficult even to maintain where you are right now. Now, anything is possible, but you're just working against yourself. So you're working that much harder to try and reach what your potential could be. Additionally, you are 2 times as likely to suffer from an injury, and if you get an injury, it's going to take you longer to recover. So in swimming, we'd like to think there are no injuries, but in any sport, in any activity, running, weightlifting, you're going to come across potential injuries, and you're twice as likely because your body is basically fighting all of these different chemicals, and you're less efficient at recovery. So because you're less efficient at recovery, you're more likely to hurt yourself, and then once you hurt yourself, because your body as an organism is just functioning less efficiently, it's gonna take you longer to recover. So if you hurt your shoulder, your lower back, your knees, anything in your body, you're more likely to hurt it, and it's gonna take longer to recover. And then smoking definitely decreases your endurance. Now, this one should be pretty obvious based on all the different things that we talked about, but if you think about it from the perspective of your heart, what we talked about, because these chemicals are binding to the red blood cells, you're not delivering oxygen, your body's max potential from a training capacity is going to be limited. And the only way that you can improve endurance is through repetitive motion. So in swimming, you need to swim to improve your swimming endurance. But because you're basically putting a ceiling on what your potential is and you're reducing and lengthening your ability to recover, it's going to negatively impact your endurance. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, well, how do other drugs impact your body? We talked about swimming, and if you're interested in how alcohol impacts your swimming performance and your body, you definitely want to check out this video that I did over here. I'll see you guys over there. Stay healthy and happy swimming.